Okay, previously we had the situation with the guy on the island, and now we're going to introduce the concept of fixed costs. But let's take a look at the table we had previously. We had the total revenue marginal product, and we defined economic profit as being the total revenue less the total cost. The guy could work $3 an hour at the food court, and he could sell the oysters for $1 each. And then we said, well, you're going to maximize the economic profit when the price is equal to marginal cost, and that occurs when the guy produces 18 oysters. That's working for 3 hours. You can see it here as being the price is equal to $1, equal to the marginal cost. So we can calculate the economic profit. We've got total revenue minus total cost, and you can see it's $9 here. That's the maximum. If you were to work longer, the economic profit would go down. The idea that it's the same as here is simply the notion that for that third hour, the guy's working, he's going to produce 3 oysters, sell them for $1 each, getting $3, which is the equivalent that he would have earned if he'd been working in the food court. So the profit is no different. So what changes now is the guy's on this island, and the owner shows up. The owner of the island shows up. Remember, he's on this island here, and the owner wants $8 per day. So he's going to charge rent. It doesn't matter what you do. You got to pay the $8 per day rent. So the question now is, how does that change things? Well, let's take a look. First of all, the technology has not changed. The number of oysters that you can produce is exactly the same as before, and the total revenue hasn't changed because the price of oysters is still $1. What has changed is the fixed cost. So I have to introduce that, which means now the total cost is going to be composed of both a fixed cost and the variable cost, the amount of time you're working. And that wage hasn't changed, it's still $3. But the way we account for it is going to be a little bit different. Let's take a look at this. You'll notice that I've got the total variable cost, now that's new, is the time that you could have been working at the food court. So at $3 per hour, it's exactly as before, except now it's called variable cost. Changes the number of hours you work. The fixed cost is going to be $8. Now, that's $8 if you don't do anything, because you need to pay it. And it's going to be $8 for each hour that you work. It's just $8 all the time. Now, notice, too, that the total cost is composed of the fixed cost and the variable cost added together. So here I've got this, $8 plus 0 gives me $8. 8 plus 3 is $11, and so on and so forth. I've done this for the others. The change in the total cost means now the average cost, which is the unit cost per oyster, is also going to change. So we've got this. We've got $11 divided by 10. Here you can see them here as I'm going to take this $11 here and divide it by the quantity produced over here, 10. The next one, if you work for 2 hours, well, your total cost would be 14. That's the $8 plus the $6 you sacrificed divided by 15. So we've got 93 cents each. And next one is 17 divided by 8, and so on and so forth. I've done it for the others down below. So we've got now the average cost, which includes the fixed cost for the what called overhead, or the rent you have to pay the owner of the island. The marginal cost, and this is really the key point here, is that the marginal cost hasn't changed. And you can verify that the numbers here are exactly the same as what we had before. And the logic here, it's sensible. The fixed cost mathematically has no change of the slope of the total cost function. We've just moved the whole curve upwards, if you will. But you can see as well that the additional cost of working for another hour is still $3, so the change of the total cost is still $3, and the marginal product hasn't changed, the technology hasn't changed. So as a result, the marginal cost of producing for the first hour, you're going to produce 10 oysters, they're 30 cents each. The second hour you work, you're going to produce, here we've got 5 oysters, $3 of sacrifice. The fact that you had to pay the $8 is irrelevant. So the marginal cost isn't any different, which means at the same time that the person will still produce 18 and they're going to work for 3 hours. So the fact that the person has now have to pay a fixed cost doesn't change their behavior, has no effect on their decision of how many hours to work or how much to produce. This is a very key point to understand. We can calculate now the economic profit, and that will change. And you can see that all that's happened really is that we've just reduced it by $8. So for example, if you don't work at all, well, you got to pay the $8 to the island, your economic profit is minus 8. If you work for 1 hour, you'll be able to produce 10 oysters. Your total cost will be 11, so you'll have a negative profit of $1, and so on and so forth. Once again, you're going to be producing at this point here, and whereas before you had an economic profit of $9, now you've only got an economic profit of $1. A little point to make about this is that the fact that you only make $1 still makes it worthwhile to do this as opposed to working in the food court, because $1 extra in effect is $1 more than you would have had doing something else. Let's finish now with just a summary of these variables that we've got. As before, we've got the wage and the price, which are given by the market. Notice these are fixed, they're non-negotiable as a price taker. The quantity produced and the hours worked, well, that's controllable. We've got the total fixed cost, total variable cost, and total cost. You'll notice the initials for it. In this case, the total fixed cost is $8 per day. That's arbitrary, I just set that. The little t in front, the big capital T in front represents total. And total cost composed of two portions, the fixed cost and the variable cost. Notice the F stands for fixed, V stands for variable. Now, we have the average costs. Sometimes it's written as average total cost, like this here. I'll be using the method of AC for average cost. Then we've got V and F as before for variable and fixed. We've got the notion of a marginal cost. Notice that marginal variable cost really doesn't make much sense because it's exactly the same, so I can just cancel this. It's exactly the same as cost because the marginal fixed cost is equal to 0. We can simply say that the total variable cost, the marginal variable cost, is exactly the same as the marginal cost. For those that know calculus, in effect what this means is we're going to take the total cost function with respect to the quantity. So we're changing the quantity and seeing how that changes the total cost. We'll be looking at curves later, and we'll see what the graphical representation of this is. We've also got the total revenue, where R now represents revenue, T stands for total. Total revenue, of course, is the price times the quantity. You'll notice that this means that the total revenue is controllable by the person because they can control the quantity, the number of hours they work, in effect. And finally, economic profit is equal to the total revenue. Total revenue is the money that goes into the cash register. Total cost is the money going out, but including the opportunity cost of the person's time. The difference between the two is economic profit. We also call it economic rent.